I came across this phrase while I was prepping for today, and I have to say, it really got under my skin.
Cool.
I was reading through this analysis of human identity, and it just flat out said, personality is a scar.
Right. And not exactly a warm, fuzzy way to start things off, is it?
Not at all. I mean, think about that for a second. We spend our entire lives building our personalities. My sense of humor, my drive, the way I am in a crisis. I think of that stuff as me.
As the best parts of you.
Exactly. And to be told that all of it is just scar tissue over some kind of invisible wound, that feels, I don't know, really cynical.
It feels aggressive. But if you really sit with it, it's also incredibly precise. The whole premise we're digging into today is that the personality structure, the thing you put on your resume, the face you show the world, it isn't actually you.
It's a defense.
It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
A whole structure built to cover a very deep, very normal injury.
Okay, so let's talk about this injury. Because usually when we talk about wounds, we're talking about, big T trauma, abuse, neglect, major life events. But these sources seem to be saying something else. That the wound is kind of inevitable.
It is. We're not talking about a specific traumatic event here. We are talking about what the sources call the normal injury of just becoming an adult. The argument is that what we call adulthood is actually the normalization of shame.
Whoa. Okay, the normalization of shame. That's a heavy concept. So before we get into the whole gender piece, because I know that's a huge part of this, can we just define what shame means here? Because I'm not talking about tripping on the sidewalk.
No, that's embarrassment.
Yeah?
It passes. This is structural. It's not emotion you feel for a few minutes. It's a belief system you live inside of.
Yeah.
It's the difference between thinking, I did something wrong, and believing I am what is wrong.
I am the problem.
Exactly. And to get where that comes from, you have to go all the way back. Think about a toddler,
Right.
or even like your dog. They exist in this state that the material calls organismic innocence.
Organismic innocence. That is a bit of a mouthful.
It just means they're not auditioning for the part of themselves.
Yeah.
A toddler doesn't question if they have a right to exist. They just are. It's pure being. But then something happens.
The world happened.
The world happens. You realize you're being watched, judged. And the brain makes this catastrophic calculation. It decides, okay, just being me isn't safe anymore. I need to do something to earn my place.
And that's the birth of the closet.
Yes. And this is such a crucial redefinition. The closet isn't just for hiding a secret like sexuality. The closet of adulthood is the psychological space where we hide our real, authentic self and replace it with a performance. We trade in our being for doing.
So the personality, the scar, is the performance.
It's a mask you wear to survive in the tribe, to
Yeah.
participate in the economy. It's scar tissue.
Okay, I think I'm following. We all wear a mask to survive. But here's where it got tricky for me. The material talks about a pride-shame axis, and it argues that pride and shame are, like, the same thing.
Structurally, yes,
Well-
they're identical.
See, that I just don't buy. I really don't. I mean, think about any office. The guy who's shouting and acting like he's a genius feels very different from the person who's just hoping no one speaks to them. One is power, the other is weakness. How can they be the same?
On the surface,
Yeah.
they feel like opposites for sure. But look at the mechanics. Both of them are a reaction to the same underlying fear. The terror of just being ordinary, vulnerable, and human.
Okay, make it concrete for me. Let's say I mess up a big presentation at work.
You bomb the presentation. You're standing there feeling exposed. Now, you have two ways to run from that vulnerability. Path A is shame. You slump your shoulders, go back to your desk, and the inner voice says, I'm an idiot. I'm a fraud. I don't belong here.
Right, I implode.
You implode. You agree with the judgment. But what's path B? Path B is pride. You walk out of that meeting and you say, those people are morons. They didn't get my genius. The projector was sabotaging me. This place doesn't deserve me.
Okay, yeah, I've definitely seen that one.
And that's the pride defense. But notice what happened. In both cases, the implosion and the explosion, you stepped away from reality. You ran from the simple truth, which was, I'm a human who made a mistake. Shame says, I'm less than human. Pride says, I'm more than human.
They're both just escapes from reality.
They're strategies to survive losing your sense of self. It's the same injury, just pointed in different directions. And here's the real trap. Our system rewards one and punishes the other.
Oh, absolutely. The pride guy gets a promotion.
Right. If your scar tissue looks like being a workaholic, dominating conversations, accumulating status, we call that leadership. We put it on magazine covers. But if your scar looks like withdrawal and feeling worthless, we call that depression and pathologize it.
Even though they're both just masks, both people are totally disconnected from who they really are.
Exactly. You can be a CEO with a massive pride scar, totally hollow inside, and the world will give you a standing ovation.
Okay, so we've got this axis, we've got the wound. Now, this is where the research gets incredibly specific. It says we don't just randomly pick a mask, we're handed a script.
And this is where gender comes in.
Right. The argument is that gender isn't just biology or expression, it's a specific clause in this social contract. It tells you which side of the pride-shame axis you're supposed to live on.
It's a sorting mechanism. The social construct of gender basically assigns the roles in the play.
Let's break down those scripts. For men, what does the contract tell a man to do with his wound?
The script for masculinity, generally, is the performance of invulnerability. In evolutionary terms, it's the hawk strategy, dominance. The contract says you are not allowed to feel shame, repress it. You must perform conscious pride.
The hawk strategy. So what does that look like? A guy feels insecure at a party. What does the script tell him to do?
Get big, take up more space, talk louder, interrupt someone, make a joke at someone else's expense. The script says any display of vulnerability is a loss of status. So you have to kill the vulnerability before anyone sees it.
The text literally uses the term soul murder. It says men are conditioned to soul murder, their own vulnerability to be seen as men.
It's violent language, but it fits. The sin of this masculinity, and we'll get to that word sin, is what the sources call grandiose narcissism. I don't need anyone. I don't feel pain. I am above it all.
Okay, that's the hawk. What about the dove? What's the contract for women?
The femininity script is often the performance of dependency. It's the appeasement strategy. The script says you are not allowed to be grandiose. You are not allowed to take up space or dominate.
So where does all that energy go?
It inverts. It becomes what's called vulnerable narcissism. Instead of I am the best, the core belief becomes I am the worst or I am the most wounded. It's a strategy to stay safe by signaling I'm not a threat. Please don't attack me.
It's the constant, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Exactly. But, and this is the really uncomfortable part, the I'm sorry is still a form of self-obsession.
Oof, okay, explain that. Well, think about it. If I'm constantly thinking about how bad I am, how much I failed, how I've disappointed everyone who is at the center of that universe, still you, it's just a negative spotlight instead of a positive one. And that's why they're structurally identical. Both pride and shame prevent you from actually connecting with another person. You're too busy managing your own performance.
So we're all trapped. Men are puffing out their chests, trying to be invulnerable. Women are shrinking to try and be safe, and no one is actually present.
And it goes deeper than just conditioning. The sources call it the status-seeking algorithm. We're mammals. We are deeply biologically wired to avoid being kicked out of the tribe. So the brain is constantly running this.
Do I dominate or do I appease?
Right. Which brings us to where this whole conversation shifts from biology to something much older. Because what we're describing here is a dynamic that theologians have been wrestling with for millennia. They just called it something else.
You're talking about sin.
I am. I've got to be honest, when the material started talking about original sin and the fall, I got a little worried we were about to get a sermon.
I know, the word is so loaded.
But the way it's defined here is completely different from what I ever learned.
It's radically different. In this framework, sin isn't breaking a rule. It's not about an apple. It's not about swearing. Sin is the very act of entering that pride-shame axis we've been talking about.
So the fall isn't a single event in a garden. It's a psychological event that happens to all of us.
Exactly. The fall is that moment you lose your innocence and start performing. The sources describe it as the desire to be more than human. That's the pride side. Or the fear of being less than human. That's the shame side.
And the real self, the part that's just human, messy, imperfect, it gets buried.
The sources have a name for that state. They call it a living death.
That's a haunting phrase, a living death.
It sounds so dramatic, but think about the neuroscience. There's this concept of identity disability. The research shows that when your brain is locked in this pride-shame loop, it literally becomes rigid. You lose cognitive flexibility.
What does that actually look like day to day?
It looks like an inability to see reality. If your whole survival is built on the belief that I am the best and someone gives you some constructive feedback, your brain cannot let that information in. It will physically distort reality to protect the scar.
Or if my script says I am worthless and 10 people are kind to me, but one person gives me a weird look.
You don't even register the kindness. Your brain deletes it because it doesn't fit the narrative. You're living inside a simulation you created. That is the living death. You're not interacting with the world. You're just interacting with your own defenses.
I want to zoom in on a specific case study from the material because it shows just how insidious this contract is. We talked about the hawk and the dove, but what happens if the script just doesn't fit you at all? The text focuses on the experience of a gay man.
Yes, this is the perfect example of the double bind.
So walk us through that trap.
Okay. You have a gay man. The masculine mandate says he's supposed to be the hawk-dominant, procreative, invulnerable.
But his entire being, his nature, contradicts that script.
Right. So the culture from day one tells him he's failed. This creates a massive, deep well of internalized shame. That belief, I am what is wrong, gets coded right into the operating system.
And of course, you want to escape that feeling. It's painful. So what do? You try to flip the coin.
You try to leap from shame to pride.
Gay pride.
And we have to be so nuanced here. Authentic dignity, standing up and saying, I have a right to exist, that is beautiful. That is healing. But the sources are warning about a specific psychological trap called defensive grandiosity.
What's the difference?
Defensive grandiosity isn't about dignity. It's about superiority. It's saying, you think I'm bad. No, I'm actually better than you. I'm fabulous. You're boring. I'm special. You're common.
It's just the hawk mask again.
It's the hawk mask with rainbow glitter. It's using pride to demand validation from the world that refused to give it. And the tragedy, according to this research, is that if you just flip that coin, you're still trapped in the same game. You haven't healed a wound, you've just covered it in gold paint.
You're still performing, still exhausted.
You are still desperate for an audience to clap for you. And as long as you need that applause to feel valid, you're still in the closet. You haven't found your real self. You've just built a much more fabulous false one.
That is actually devastating. It feels like a total catch-22. If I'm ashamed, I lose. If I'm proud, I lose. Follow the script, you're a robot. Break it, you're an outcast. So what's the actual way out? The text uses this term, epistemological repair.
I know. It sounds like something you need a degree for.
It really does. Epistemological repair. Break that down for us.
All it means is fixing the broken logic. Epistemology is just how we know what we know. So it means correcting the fundamental lie.
The lie that says, I am defective.
Yes. The lie that says my worth is conditional. That's the logic error. The personality, the scar, it isn't the real self.
So how do you fix it? You can't just wake up and decide not to care what people think. That sounds dangerous. If I drop my mask at work tomorrow, I might get fired.
And that's a real fear. It is dangerous. That's why we built the masks to begin with. When you were 5, you needed that mask to survive. But the argument is, you're not 5 anymore. You're carrying a shield to protect you from a war that ended decades ago.
So you don't fix the personality.
No. You dissolve the need for it. You start to see that the definitions of man, woman, success, failure, they were all just arbitrary rules in a rigged game. And once you truly see the game is rigged, you stop playing.
The destination is called organismic unity.
It's a return to innocence. But it's not the naive innocence of a toddler. It's what the source calls an incorruptible innocence.
There was one line that just jumped out at me. Unthreatened by truth.
That's the whole goal. Just imagine that for a second, being unthreatened by truth.
It sounds impossible.
It's incredibly hard. But imagine if you didn't need to be special to feel okay. If you didn't have to be right to feel safe. If I say to you, hey, you kind of messed up that project, you don't implode into shame and you don't explode into pride, you just say, oh, you're right, let's fix it.
All that competitive tension just dissolves.
Completely. Because I'm no longer competing with you for the scarce resource called validity. I already have it, just by existing. I just am.
You become, as the text says, resistant to manipulation.
And that's the so what for right now. Think about advertising, politics, social media. It all works by hooking into our shame or our pride, by this to be important. Believe this or you're a bad person. Someone who's done this repair work, they don't have those hooks anymore. You can't control them.
It sounds like freedom.
It is. It's the ultimate freedom. It's stepping out of the dominator versus victim binary altogether. You become, as one source puts it, not humble, not proud, not ashamed, just real.
Just real. It's so simple, but getting there, that's the whole journey. It means looking right at that scar and admitting it's there.
It means grieving. Grieving the time you lost performing. Grieving the false self you have to let go of.
We have covered so much ground. From the closet of adulthood forcing us into a performance to the gender scripts that hand us our lines hawk or dove, and finally seeing that what we call sin is just the machinery of losing ourselves in that system.
And realizing the way out isn't about winning the game, it's about walking away from the table.
I want to leave everyone with one final thought from the material. It's really a provocation, a question that I think we should all just sit with for a bit.
It's the question that strips it all away.
The question is this: if you stripped away your job title, your reputation, your cleverness, and your history, if you stopped performing and you stopped defending, who or what would be left?
The answer to that question,
Yeah.
that's the only part of you that's actually real.
Thanks for taking the dive with us.
See you next time.